What's up? What's up, guys? Hey. If you are hopping on live or if you're watching the replay, we are hanging out with the amazing Tori Reid. And as you all know, this is the time and the period where we just share out this video. So if you're watching this live or if you're watching the replay, take a moment to share this video and to share it with as many peeps as you can. Lots of good stuff. Perfect. So feel free to share it. We got lots of good vibes. Facebook is letting people know about the notifications. We are good to go. Alrighty. So heads up. So we are talking with the amazing Tori Reid today on Thought Leader TV, where Thought Leader TV is where we interview leading experts and industry leaders who are all actively bringing healing where there is suffering, hope where there is doubt, and courage where there is fear in the world through their businesses. So pretty much badasses. And Tori Reid, I met her in Landon Porter's group. We were all on a chat session, and on that chat session, I knew I was like, I need to reach out to this girl. She's amazing. She drops value bombs when it comes to high-level strategies, and she's the girl you want to go to if you are figuring out your content strategy and you want to do it right. So first things first, Tori, what was your tipping point into entrepreneurship? What made you decide to be an entrepreneur in the first place?
Oh, man, nobody's asked me that question before, I don't think. And I think that I'd always toyed with the idea of entrepreneurship and like owning my own business. Like even as a kid, like I always kind of leaned in that direction of working for myself, or definitely not working in corporate America. I'll put it that way, because there was a long period in time when I thought I'd be a musician, which I didn't necessarily equate to entrepreneurship. But I think the thing that really solidified it for me was when my dad, he was like the breadwinner for our family. He worked at Verizon for a really long time, high level data traffic engineering. And when the recession hit, he got laid off, and it like split my family up. And so my parents took my little brother, they moved to South Carolina. I stayed in Maryland with my sister for a bit, and then I ended up coming out to Ohio. And it was like really at that point in time, and I saw how much it hurt my dad personally and how it like hurt my family up. I was just like, I'm never going to let that happen to me. Like, I'm never going to make that mistake of like letting somebody else's company kind of determine my worth and direct my life in that kind of space. And so that's when I decided I'm not going to, like, no matter what I didn't know what my destiny was or like what direction I would choose at that point, but I knew that it wouldn't be anything with like corporate or working for somebody else. I knew I'd work for myself. So nobody's powerful. You're the first one.
Yes. No, and you know what's so interesting and exciting about you is like you go about entrepreneurship in a very strategic way. Like you go about entrepreneurship. Like I never get the feeling from you that you show up and you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing, but you show up and you're like, you know what, let me be really intentional with what I do and every piece of content I put out, how I show up in my Facebook group. So how did that start? Like, how did you become so good when it came to focusing on growth strategies and marketing strategies?
I think a lot of that started when I took on kind of like a marketing director role with other companies. Really started out in writing. Like I got into this with blogging, just freelance writing. So I wasn't really doing a lot of like marketing stuff on the freelance level, but eventually I did like kind of grow to that. And I started taking on a marketing strategist role for other companies. And that was when I kind of learned how to think strategically and purposefully about everything. And that's when I really like dove deep into just studying marketing day in and day out and studying more than just, put a blog post up about this topic, but who am I speaking to? What is this supposed to do? What do they need for me to say to them? And where am I supposed to lead them with this message? And so that's how I really got into content marketing and just writing with purpose instead of just writing to write. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. So for you, when you're working with your clients, like how do you help them discover the type of writing style that's one, good for them, and then two, is going to attract their audience? Like what's that process look like?
Well, number one, I definitely encourage all of my clients to, use their own voice, be themselves, bring yourself to the table. That's like non-negotiable, especially if you're building up a personal brand.
Yep.
But I think the biggest three issues that I tend to help people overcome is, number one, figuring out who they're talking to begin with. Like, people have very vague ideas when they get into this of like, oh, I know I want to help with health and fitness. I know I want to help people lose weight, but like, who specifically are you talking to though? And so I dive super deep into that, figuring out who exactly they're talking to, figuring out exactly what their message is. Like, what does your target audience need from you right now? And how can you put a message together that really helps them with that big issue? So I help them with that, which is really just market research. And then the next issue that most people have is they are very, very obsessive over their ideas instead of being very obsessive over their audience. And everything switched for me when I realized that, because I used to do the same thing. I think it's like a natural growing pain that people have, right? And everything switched for me when I realized I need to stop obsessing over my ideas, and I need to start obsessing over like, what does my audience need and how can I help them? And that simple like tweaking mentality, when I can get people to make that change, that typically like everything else just kind of falls into place after that a lot more quickly, because otherwise you're really just fighting against the market instead of working with it most of the time.
So that's so interesting, because this is something that when I used to have an agency in the life coaching energy healer space, right? It was so interesting marketing in that space, because the same thing how you're saying right now, it's that blend and it's that balance between really understanding what your audience needs and speaking to their need versus just speaking to how you want to say it. Like, and it's using their words, not just your words. And so that's super powerful that you help your tribe do that as well. So someone who has an audience, say like in the energy healing space, and they're really tied to their own words, they're really tied to their own message, how can they still share their personal message, still show up as themselves, but still be marketable to the audience that they want to reach?
The advice that I typically give people is to lead with what your audience wants first. Like, it's on the front end of your business, when you're building your lead magnets, when you're bringing in that cold traffic, right? On the front end of your business, it's really about earning their attention. It's really not about anything else. So like, you really have to like set aside your ego real quick enough to earn their attention. And then once you earn their attention and they're happy to give you their ear, then they will, like, most of the time, like if you're doing a great job, your audience will happily say, okay, you have this idea, I'm happy to listen to it, I'm ready now. But you have to lead with the thing that they want to hear from you. And so you have to do that market research and figure out like, what is their biggest pain point? What other stuff, like what are your competitors that they're using? What are their frustrations with those competitors? And you have to figure out a solution for them that alleviates those current frustrations that they're dealing with. And so that has to be like your front end idea. Like when I started to attract bloggers, I have all kinds of ideas about blogging and content creation, like so many. And one of my biggest ideas is, and one of the biggest things that I push to my audience is, you don't need, and you and I talked about this, you don't need like plus visitors per month to make money. Like, you have to just do things. It's okay. But a lot of people don't know that. And so when I went out to them and I said, okay, what's your biggest struggle with making money blogging? They said, I need more traffic. I need more traffic. Now I know better, but it doesn't matter what I know. I haven't earned their ear yet. And so what am I'm going to make a solution for them so that they can get more traffic, but not just a solution where they can get more traffic. I'm going to ask them, okay, well, what are your current frustrations? Why aren't you getting traffic? Well, I'm struggling with SEO, and everybody's I'm struggling with SEO. Everybody's telling me that I need a social media following first, and I don't know how to do that. So I put together a cheat sheet so that they can get traffic without SEO, get traffic without having their own social media following first. And they loved it. And now they lend me their ears for the bigger ideas that I have for them, and they love it. And so for anybody who is really struggling and you're like, you feel stifled by that initial point of advice, don't obsess over your ideas. You're right. There's a place for it somewhere in there, especially if it's a great one that your audience really needs. But first you have to earn their ear. And so you have to listen to them first. Yeah.
That's so powerful. And if you guys are watching this right now, and if you have ever experienced this in your own business where you were creating products or you had all these ideas, and for whatever reason, you couldn't get your audience to comment on it or get excited about it or anything like that, put a heart emoji in the comment section below, because we've all gone through that before. And I think what's really exciting about what you're saying, Tori, is like at the core of it is give them what they need through what they want, right? So it's 100% what is it that they want, speak that language, and then in your programs, you can give them what they actually need to get to the result that they want. Yeah. So super powerful with that. When it comes to your audience, because I know we were talking about originally you started out with bloggers and now you're moving on to even like more digital marketers, right? So say someone comes on, they're a coach, and they're just starting out in their business, or maybe they're a year or two in, but they're not getting traction. What is it that they need to do first to figure out their next step? So how do they move forward from that space?
For coaches? Mm-hmm. If coaches are if you're a year or two into your business and you're not getting traction, like I said, it's probably one of those two things. It's probably you haven't figured out exactly who you're talking to, or you haven't figured out exactly how to say it. So first is go to ask yourself that first thing, like, who am I speaking to? Do I know who I'm speaking to? If you have any doubts about that, then that's the thing you need to work on. And typically when it comes to like who you're speaking to, I've noticed something, and I had like a big breakthrough with one of my students recently, actually. I kind of coached her into figuring out who her target audience is because she was in that position. She'd been going on for a couple years, and she's like, I can't make progress because I don't know who I'm talking to. She was very she was like hyper aware of her issue, but she didn't know how to fix it. So I had her, and this is the case for most coaches, I think. I had her, I kind of challenged her, and I'm like, okay, let's talk about your journey. Because for most of us who are coaches, we're coaching people who are somewhere behind us on the exact same journey that we're on, right? And so I'm like, let's talk about your journey. Let's talk about all these evolutions that you've had on your journey. Let's talk about the different versions of yourself that came before you, before where you are now. And let's talk about your pain points at each of those steps. Which one of those versions of yourself are you really talking to? Which one of those pain points hits the deepest for you that you're really trying to cure for that former version of yourself? Because that's probably the person that you're talking to. And so if you're struggling to like figure out who you're talking to, think about and like write it down, grab a journal, write down like your whole story and like everything you've been through, and kind of align that with who you're trying to figure out who you're talking to. You're going to, like, if you just go through it and you're like, okay, version 1, I got into on day 1. Version 2, I made this big pivot or had this big change that accelerated. Version 3, I made this big pivot or this big change, or I was struggling with this thing and I had this big breakthrough. Write down all those versions. One of those is in your gut. One of those is going to stand out to you. You're going to say, that's who I'm talking to. And so she realized she was talking to entrepreneurs who were like doing the thing. They were in their business, but they didn't have like a healthy balance of life. Like most of us come into entrepreneurship and we're like, we want entrepreneurship because we want freedom. We want freedom to explore, do all these things. But then we get into it and we become workaholics because we're working on our business 80 hours a week. She figured out she was trying to save that person. And I think most of you guys will figure out that you're trying to save some form or version of yourself. So that's step 1, action step. Don't know who you're talking to. And 2, in terms of like figuring out what your message is, super basic questions. Go into a Facebook group or a targeted group or a Reddit thread or somewhere where your audience hangs out and just say, what's your biggest challenge with blank? Go in there, ask them their biggest challenge. Have conversations with everybody who answers. You're going to find like one big trending response, right? Have conversations with all the people who are having that big trending response. Ask them what other methods they're trying. Ask them what their frustrations are with those methods. And they're going to say, I'm having a big challenge with this. I'm trying this, but here are my frustrations with that. And what you're going to do is you're going to say, okay, I have a solution to your challenge with this. That all these frustrations that you're getting from these other methods. That's how you speak to your audience on the front end. That's how you get them in.
And you know what's so interesting too is I was talking with one of my friends the other day, and we're saying how all these strategies, right, they all work. Like every single strategy out there that people are harping on, they all work. But what you really need behind them is the fundamentals, which is what you just shared right now. And then 2 is the consistency behind it. And you can only get the consistency behind it if you absolutely love the strategy that you're implementing on and that you're using. So a pain point that I hear a lot of times from entrepreneurs when they're figuring out what platforms they're going to share their message on, or whether they're going to start a podcast, a YouTube series, or whichever, or whether they're going to start a blog, and they're in this space of like, I don't know, there's just so many options. It's like strategy overload in online entrepreneurship. What does that person do? Like, okay, they know their audience already. They know what their audience needs. How do they figure out what platform they build upon?
There's a balance between, you know, where does your audience hang out? That's obvious, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you're discussing, when you're deciding between platforms like Facebook and YouTube, like those are the two biggest platforms on the planet. So there's plenty enough to go. You know what I mean? But number one is like, where's your audience hang out? Make a list of those platforms where you know you can reach your audience, and out of those platforms and those things, then you just ask yourself, like, what's your best suit? I always tell people, like, just wear your best suit. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't think like, oh, this guru told me that I have to use YouTube. Like, don't do it that way. Like, what's your best suit? Are you better writing? Are you better on video? Are you better on audio? Pick your best suit and move forward with that. That's going to be like your primary, right? And then of course you can try on different suits along the way as you grow. But I think the best way for people who are like just getting started, just pick your best suit. If you're best at writing, lead with your best foot forward, because that's how you're going to be received well. Like it's just the best thing for you to do. So I don't overcomplicate it. I've actually turned people down before who came to me and they were like, I need to learn how to blog. I'm really terrible at writing. I'm like, well, what are you good at? Well, I'm better on video. I'm better at talking to people. Okay, well then go do that. I'm not going to take you. Like, you're not my client. Go do video. You know?
I think that's so powerful too, because I think there's this comparison in the space where you feel like you have to do things a certain way, or you have to do certain things like your mentor tells you to do, or whatever your coach tells you to do. And in the coaching space, there can be this like limiting belief with certain coaches where certain coaches teach just one strategy and you kind of have to fit into that strategy, versus being very flexible with your clients and allowing them to find the strategy that feels right for them. What I love about what you just said right now is that you've turned away people who weren't a fit for you because you wanted them to honor the strategy that was right for them.
Yeah.
Which is super huge. Yeah. So like super awesome in that. Yeah. And I think what's super powerful, and I guess this is like another question, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. We'll shout you guys out. But another thing, when it comes to these different strategies, when someone's just starting out and they want to do a big launch, right? So they know who their audience is. They know what they're good at. They know we're building it up, right? They know all the foundationals of that. Yeah. What are some good launch strategies that are working today in 2017 that you feel have long-term oomph behind them?
Launch strategies that I feel like have long-term oomph behind them.
Yeah.
I really love, you know something? I like, when it comes to launch strategy, I'm really experimental with that right now. Because I'm into launching my own course, and I'm paying more attention to like what I'm doing now that I have like all on board for my own thing than I ever have with any other clients, because every launch that I've worked with another client, it's always been like a team effort, and there's like all these different things that I never had control over. So now I have control over everything. So here are the fun things that I'm learning most recently, like with having control over everything. Number one, when you're like, this is like probably the most interesting point to me, is when your audience is super warm and they go purchase this thing that you're launching, they don't read the sales page 9 times out of 10.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Preach. Guys, you guys need to listen in on this, because this is what I've been saying nonstop. Go, Tori, go.
They do not read the sales page. They don't care. And so I thought about it, and I was like, okay, so I did one launch with just regular sales page, right? Following what everybody was saying. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have a sales page. I'm going to have the button all the way down at the bottom. Like, whatever. Made them go through the whole sales page. It was a decent sales page, whatever. And I got decent conversion rates, no problem. But my conversion rates bumped up immediately. Like, I saw an immediate increase day one of the second launch compared to day one of the first launch, like a huge increase, actually. When I put the buy button up top of the sales page so that they wouldn't have to scroll down. I don't know how many people I deterred because they had to read like a long sales page and they're like, I'll do it later. I don't have time for this right now. It's probably where their head's at, right? And then they probably just go back to it, or they find something else that they want to buy at IKEA. Like, you just never know. But put that button right up top, people go right to it. They don't read the sales page. And it's really all about, because they don't read the sales page, for me, I have a Facebook group. I have this little echo chamber that I've created where my audience like kind of hangs out and they talk about all the strategies we talk about, and they talk about how much they love me, which is like really heartwarming and awesome, right?
Aww, love it.
So I hang on that little Facebook group. And so what I do is I try to make sure that I'm like highly engaging that week leading up to the launch, leading up to day one. Because I know that they're not going to read the sales page. And so if they're not reading the sales page, well, where are they hanging out before they buy the course? They're hanging out in the group with me. So I need to be there. I need to show up. So that's one of the things, like, pay attention to like the heartbeat and the movement to your audience. Like, whenever it comes to your launch, like, where are they hanging out before they get to that sales page? Are you selling to a cold audience, or are you selling to a warm audience? Are they reading your sales page? If they don't care about your sales page, then, and that's who you're selling to primarily, then you don't need to care about it that much either. Like, just make sure it's easy for them to get through. That's probably like the biggest thing that I've learned that was surprising to me as far as like launch strategy.
You know what I've also been learning as well, and this is a little pro tip. We're all sharing with y'all guys. Okay, so sometimes I do sales pages, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I go straight to the checkout page, because if you think about it, your Facebook post, if you do like a long form Facebook post, that's like your mini sales page right there. And if they're clicking on the link, they're already sold. Like, and now they just want to buy it. Like, they don't want to go to it's like going on a date and asking the person if they want to go on the same date twice. Like, no, but are you sure about going on that date? No, but really, like, here are all the reasons why we should go on this date. They're like, oh, but I already want to go on the date with you. And so,
I probably would have done the same thing. The only reason I kept my sales page is for those who wanted to go through and look at like what comes in the individual modules. Otherwise, I probably would have dropped it all together too. Like, I don't disagree with you at all. If you're putting everything on front, like in that long form Facebook post, if that's how you're announcing your product, if everything is on that post, fuck it. Like, just go straight. I agree. Like, I agree 100%.
Yeah, it's like straight to the checkout page. And you know what's interesting too, since we're talking about different strategies that are like working in 2017 and moving into 2018, we're just giving you guys all the deets right here. You know what I've been noticing is there is a huge excitement around the paid masterclass. Like, the paid masterclass, especially like in the coaching industry, is such like a fun and quick way to, one, get like passive income set up, and then two, to like attract your high-end clients direct from like a paid webinar or a paid class. Like, me and Lena, we just did a paid masterclass like a couple of weeks ago, and we just had so much fun doing it. And it was just like a super cool way. And then there's so many ways to really grow from it, because then you could package it later, you could do all these cool things. And then Matt's in the comments said, I go right to the sales page in some instances too. See, he agrees with what we were saying earlier.
Doing like it's not paid yet, but I'm actually doing something a little similar with Matt. We're having a group coaching call, which is like a masterclass. But it's a beta call, because what we're going to do is we're going to end up like repurposing it and putting it into a course. So that's a good way to create courses to you guys, for those of you who are like in the process of course creation and you're like, oh, like, what should I, whatever, like put together like just a beta. Like, we're doing it for free for our first call. We already have people in. I'm sorry, I can't announce this to you guys. Already approved for our 10 beta. But we're doing like just a free like long form coaching call, like just group coaching, and we're going to go over like all the topics that we're talking about, which is content marketing and affiliate marketing, and we're going to repurpose that later. But the call is like super cool, because it's going to help us add in and like fill in the missing pieces to what we probably would have missed in the course, because we're getting like live feedback right there on the spot, almost as the content is being created. Does that make sense? So it's going to be like really cool. I'm looking forward to seeing how that turns out.
No, that's super exciting. And love it. Yeah, no, and that's like a super quick way to create your courses and to get live feedback while you're doing it. So another thing, before we like close out, two quick questions is one, how can people get a hold of you? And then two, what is something that you wish you would have gotten asked on this call that you really desperately need to share right now?
Oh man. Okay, number one, how can people get a hold of me? Come to my Facebook group, Blogging for Entrepreneurs, Actionable Growth and Income. I think there's a link up there in the description. Maybe, or if not, we'll put it in the comments.
Yes, and then we'll add it in. I'll add it into the description too.
All right, dope. We'll add it into the description. And what was one question that I was not asked that I desperately wish I was? I don't know. You caught me off guard with that one. Good job.
This is why we're friends, Tori. This is why we're friends.
I'll tell you this though. One of the things that I learned, I'll just give you guys this. One of the things that I learned from Amanda on our last call, which was a private call, was how small I was thinking. So honestly, like how small I was thinking for my own business strategy and for my own like vision for my own self. And so one of the things that I want to tell you guys is to like, if you guys have not had like a private conversation with Amanda Rivera yet, you need to fucking do it. We will teach you like exactly how far you can, like, she'll just like your ideas are so big, bro. Like, so have a conversation with Amanda and let her show you exactly how big you can take your business, how big you can take your vision. If there's anything that I want to tell everybody in your audience, that's the thing I want to tell them. I want to tell them to like get closer to you because I think it's really valuable.
Aw, thanks, Tori. Oh, love you. Landon's like, you're both awesome sauce. Aw, we're sharing that. Look, there you go. No, this is so perfect. And so I think it's super powerful to surround yourself with people who think big, who are like the term I like to use is legacy builders. So people who are building out a big legacy and who are taking big action steps, big steps into the direction of their dreams. And so what's super powerful about you, Tori, is you have your eye on the prize and you're super focused. And when you show up direct and you deliver the goods and you're just like boom, 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 boom. Like there's no pausing in between any of that. And so I just wanted to give a huge shout out to you and let everybody know that is watching this as well to also get connected with Tori because she's doing amazing things, especially in her Facebook group. She's always dropping amazing value bombs, amazing strategies. She gives you guys so many ideas. So if you are ever feeling stumped in your business on how to create a really cool creative marketing plan, like this is your girl. So definitely check her out. And super huge shout out to everybody that stopped by on this Facebook Live interview. Sending you guys tons of love. And if you got tons of value from this Facebook Live, feel free to share it with your audience. Tag an entrepreneur into all that good vibes. So sending you guys lots of love and hope you guys have an amazing day. Enjoy your Friday and sending you love.